All right.
Here we are, Heavy Groove List. I am so happy, appreciative to have the one and the only Mr. Ivan de Prume on the Heavy Groove List, man. Ivan from White Zombie, thank
What's
you for
up?
coming on. Hey, man. Thank you for coming
What's
on the Heavy
going
Groove List.
on? Yeah. All right. Yeah. We
Awesome, dude.
what's happening? You're down in Australia, huh?
Yeah, man. You never actually got down here, did you, yourself? Or
I not no, I've never been down there personally.
yeah,
No.
yeah. One
Yeah.
day, man.
That's
Beautiful
sounds
place.
I really want to visit. I really want to come down.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
Have you
hope
been
all this
all your life?
sorts out in the next 18 months, and everyone can start traveling again.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah.
That would be nice. Have you been born and raised there?
I'm actually born in the Netherlands. My mom's Dutch.
Oh wow,
My
cool.
dad, my dad's Fiji Indian from Fiji.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so but I've lived here all my life, pretty much since I was 3. So yeah, I'm an Aussie mate.
Nice, nice. That's freaking awesome, man. You know, I've been to the Netherlands. I've been to Europe, but yeah, not Australia.
Yeah, okay. I
Netherlands
wanted
is
to ask you, what's your like cultural background, like De Prume? What's is that?
well, Prume is French,
Yeah,
and
that's what I thought.
yeah, yeah, and then Ivan's Russian. So
Yep.
we have the French Russian elements there. Um, my Franz Johann Prume is my great great grandfather who was uh, played violin around the world.
Yeah, I heard you speak about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah,
So
yeah. He's
music,
not.
music, a long line in your family history,
Yes,
then.
yes, yes. A little bit. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool, man. Cool, cool. Hey, man, look, um, there's no secret you guys made a massive impact back in the day. You know, with
Yeah.
especially especially La Sexorcisto. I mean, that's to me
Hmm.
that's a holy grail of an album for me. It's one of my top 5 albums ever. Like,
Wow.
yeah, man.
Nice.
I can't get enough of that. Every time I put it on, it's like it's fresh, it's new again. Just the
Yeah.
combination of what happened back then. One thing I wanted to ask you before we get into that is like when you first, what influenced you to first pick up the sticks and start playing, like play the drums?
Just I love beats. I love grooves. I love stuff that makes people move.
Uh-huh.
There's power to it. I watched a drummer actually on stage that had an impact on me. I just watching him perform. This was when I was probably 8 years old or so. It was just an outdoor concert, and I was able to get up close to the drummer, and there was just such an incredible, powerful feeling of the pounding of the skins. And ever since I saw that, I was drawn to it. And finally, I made some money. I did actually a summer employment program for the kids. So I got on as a camp counselor for the summer and was helping
Cool.
kids out and came out of that with a few $100 because back then minimum wage was 3.35 an hour. So, you know, after the whole summer, I had a few $100 and I put it right into a used drum kit that I picked up. And that was I had a jazz musician in my building who at the time I wasn't like I wasn't I didn't know how I was going to spend the money. I had all this money saved up, and I'm like I want to buy something, and the guy was like my tenant was my tenant in the house. He was like I was like, well, why don't we just pick up a used paper? You can get a lot more for your money. So
Mhm.
we got this newspaper. I was going through the list of used stuff in the area, and I said, 5-piece drum kit. Ooh, I can afford that. So we went and picked that up, and he showed me a couple of beats, and I started pounding away, and got picked up in junior high school for the band out there, and ended up putting these cool beats to regular, you know, junior high school songs that the band plays, kind of like
Yeah.
jazz stuff, which ended up getting a really good reaction. The kids were all about it because I was just playing, just hip hop top beats to that stuff, It worked out great. It was like a good feeling to come from a kid who wasn't even recognized in school to a kid who kids down the hall would say, "Hey, man, that's kick-ass drumming." You did, and so that was a good turning point for me as an adolescent, in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I was in, I was white boy Ivan. There was a lot of kids out there who were, I was a minority, it was mostly Black and Puerto Ricans and Irish and different cultures. And um, I ended up getting picked on a lot, and as a kid in Brooklyn. And the drums actually turned that around for me, and heavy metal music, and because I ended up dressing with a more powerful image than from a soft kid who didn't really know how to dress. So it gave me my identity. I found out who I was through drums,
Yeah.
through heavy metal music. I found me, and I'm still rediscovering myself. As we go through this life on this planet, we reinvent ourselves and we rediscover that. But that was a big change for me.
Yeah, awesome. Especially those formative years would have been like, super impact. So
Yeah. It kept me out of trouble too.
Yeah, similar for me. I started when I was 12 playing the kit, and same
cool.
thing.
Yeah.
When I started, it's like, you find something you love, and that's it, man. It just takes over your life.
Yeah, that you find your power. This is who you are now, and then you go about the day just like because you develop a skill, and having that skill is cool.
Yeah, man, that's true. It's true. Hey, I know I've heard you speak on a couple of other podcasts that I search for. There's not many out there with you. There's a couple. It's like the Brooklyn, what is it, Blast Furnace or something?
Yeah. No, that was cool. Jimmy Ferrari's awesome guy.
Yeah, that was a really cool one. And you did one with another dude, another musician. I think he's a drummer. I can't remember what that was called. And then what is it, Dark Mark Show or something or other?
Oh yeah. Another good one. Yeah,
that was a cool one. That was cool because I found out something about you that was super cool. Like you got that Buddhist side to you, the spiritual side. It was super cool to find out. I was real happy to hear that.
Yes, and that's like right there. The big thing about the Buddhist practice is vibrations are everywhere. Everything is vibrating, and the Buddhist chant we do is Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which was the devotion to the mystic law of cause and effect through sound and vibration.
Wow, cool.
And so you chant the words that interconnect you with, and drumming is all about vibrations, and so it puts it hand in hand. You're chanting, you're doing a rhythmical chant, you're doing it in time. It's in 6/8, and you're voicing it, and so through the voice we manifest our dreams and reality, because it's it connects us from our physical form to everything out there in the universe, because the vibrations you're projecting is like the ripple effect in a pond. You drop that water and it reaches every corner of the universe. Everything is reached. So when you want to interconnect with what's out there here, this is that was the key, for me, and it unlocked my pathway through my dreams as a kid. I started chanting when I was a teenager. My sister introduced me to it, and she was like, you can manifest all of your dreams through this. And I'm like, oh, and so that, along with the drumming and along with discovering heavy metal and my sister introducing that to me, I found White Zombie. Zombie. I was already in a band with Shauna, and and then she had me come join White Zombie. And I was chanting for the band's success, and the more I chanted, the more we started reinventing ourselves, and we're four individuals in that band, each of us with so much power behind and talent that when you have the talent and then we landed on a sound, and then you put this force behind it, it's like. It just gives it a good kick in the ass to make shit happen, and
definitely.
And life condition.
It's an awesome connection there. Like I've got a couple more questions about that, but one thing I wanted to get to first was when you guys, because did you and Shauna met at, is it Shauna or Sean? What how does she?
Well, I call her Shauna.
All right.
But she always writes down Sean everywhere. But I always called her Shauna. I was introduced, she like through this whole process of the band, everyone changed their names to different things, and
Okay.
but yeah.
You're
To me,
always Ivan, and from the start to now, you didn't change nothing. So that's good. So when you did you met her at our art school? Was that right, or before, or some other place?
Actually, we all went to different art schools. I didn't meet her at she went to Parsons.
Yeah.
A university. I was in a high school. I was an art school, art design high school. And
that's right.
when I went there for filmmaking, I wanted to do filmmaking, and I want to be a director and a camera guy, but doing recording studio stuff. And I've done a little bit of filmmaking, but since White Zombie took off, I just rode that wave, and I stuck with it.
I get you.
Stuff, I still love it. I still want to do it. I still want to edit stuff. I still want to do movies, but it's a much bigger production. When you do a movie, you not only have sound, but you have visual that you have to develop, and there's so much to do with sound as it is. It takes a lifetime.
Sure. Hey, look, I know like all your intro stuff from when you joined up to when Make Them Die Slowly, and then you started getting noticed around that time more and more, and then obviously what happened next, we all know. So one thing I wanted to ask was when you guys first started jamming with Jay, how long before you guys knew, this is the dude, man. He's brought he's brought a new ingredient to the band,
it's so funny how we like, I think it was our first, or it might have been our first rehearsal. I think the first rehearsal was a photo shoot with him. It was ridiculous. Like we got him. We were ready, but he wasn't really in the band yet. But no, we did an audition, we did a jam, but then, but we called him we had a photo shoot scheduled already, and we liked Jay, so we're like, why not? We just put him in there. If it doesn't work out, we don't use it, right? Yeah. But we kind of knew right away. I mean, there was no red flags right off the bat. So we just jumped right into the boat with him, and together developing music, and we already had a whole set of stuff that we like a lot of the songs changed with Jay. As you can see, we redid Disaster Blaster.
Yeah.
On that EP, and so with Jay playing the stuff, it just gave it so much a heavier crunch. He really knew how to get that Slayer's crunch sound, where John Ritchie was on Make Them Die Slowly, and John Ritchie had a smoother sound. It was a warmer tone, but it was not as heavy as when we got into what we did with Jay. And it also has to do with the fact that Rob Zombie already decided he's in love with Slayer and Metallica and a lot of these heavy bands, where before with Make Them Die Slowly, he was just starting to I think he just discovered it. He wasn't sure about the direction as much as after we got Jay. We couldn't get that. It was during. Okay, now I remember. It was during Make Them Die Slowly. He realized we couldn't get that sound with John Ritchie, or we weren't like it wasn't hitting it the way we wanted it. But John Ritchie, we would have kept him in the band. He had a carpal tunnel syndrome. He gave up guitar for a while. So he quit. But I could tell he wasn't really 100% happy with the band. He was a little disconnected from Shauna and Rob. They were distant, a little bit distant with him. It was a little weird, but I was tight with him. It wasn't really a big of an issue. You know how you can get a little bit of band drama. There was a little. I think he just didn't feel like he was getting the attention from the others. There was a lot going on, and when you got four people, you got like so many dynamics. It's like 16, right? Because it's like these two, then these two, then these two, then these two, like you can just flip flop them. And so Sean and Rob were a couple, and they were really tight, and they would handle all the business.
That's another dynamic altogether. So
Yeah, exactly. And then me and it would be me and the guitar player that was left out of there because they lived together, Sean and Rob. So anyway, I can go all day about this, but the bottom line is sometimes we're left in the dark with some stuff, and so Sean and Rob would always talk to me, and then we would fill out. Then the guitar player would be a revolving door. There would be different guitar players coming. Jay was the fifth guy we got.
Yeah. Well, after you didn't need to look any further after you found him. That's for sure.
Oh hell no! Yeah, he was great. I was like, yay!
So all the songs on the Sexorcisto, were they written in your mum's basement? You said when you guys were jamming. And...
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And we also wrote in Sean and Rob's apartment. We would go over to their apartment with a 4-track, a recorder, and I'd bring my HR-16 drum machine, and I'd be tapping on the pads, and we'd write beats and stuff, and so a lot of the songs, like for example, I remember Black Sunshine. I have that. I actually found a 4-track. I found one of the tapes, and I was playing the mixes of that 4-track, and I was like, oh my god, yeah. With that drum machine, that's how we got Black Sunshine. I was playing a beat, and then it ended up becoming from 4/4 to 6/8 because it was like rapping, it was flip flop around, and but yeah, my mom's basement in Brooklyn. When we started writing all those songs on that album, suddenly we had a little crowd outside our basement studio door, and I went to outside. The basement in Brooklyn, there's like in front of the studio, there's the little the area where you take the ladder up outside, and then you have a metal door that opens.
Okay.
So it's like a ladder and a metal door that opens to the front of the house. And so out there is our front yard of the house. A little, it's all concrete, and it's not really a yard with flowers and stuff. Now actually, they put that in there. But kids would gather around that opening when we were rehearsing. I was like, oh, shit, people are recognizing us.
Oh, well, you can imagine, man, when you started jamming some of those grooves and those riffs, you would have gathered a crowd outside, man.
That started happening. We started playing L'Amour's in Brooklyn, opening for Slayer, and a lot of the heavy bands would come through. And that's when I really started to see the change happen. Is when we opened Biohazard and all these other bigger bands. I felt stuff started to really move along. Of course, getting signed to Geffen.
Yeah. So that, like, supporting some of those big bands was before you guys got signed then.
Oh yeah. And Biohazard was pretty happening, and playing along with them, and then the promoters, Chris Williamson was doing Rock Hotel, and so he started putting us on the bill with a lot of touring bands, big touring bands, national acts, and then the producer Daniel Ray, who did the Ramones stuff, he introduced us. He did our EP with Jay on it.
Oh yeah,
produced that one, and then he connected us with Michael Alago, who signed us to Geffen Records. Yeah,
right. That's the dude who also signed Metallica, wasn't it?
That's right. He's got a documentary on Netflix right now.
Yeah, right. I haven't checked it out.
Yeah, it's called "Who the Fuck Is That Guy?" That's the name of the documentary. Who the fuck is that guy?
Cool name.
Yeah, great documentary, and they actually mentioned me in the documentary because Shauna, because it was about Michael Alago coming out. He was homosexual, and it was just ironic how here you got this flamboyant man who is signing all the craziest heavy metal dudes He's like surrounded by all this angry metal, where almost the guys come to the shows back in those days, and so he had a thing for me, and so he would flirt with me and try to hit on me at when we go out to the bars, and I would hang out, and he drawing a blank. So it was through his attraction to me that he kept telling Shauna and Rob about me, and kept Shauna kind of used that whole thing to get him to come to the shows and get, I think, it kind of helped it along a little bit. But yeah. That was
You're the X Factor, man. You're the X Factor in White Zombie's history.
I know.
You're the X Factor in White Zombie's history.
That was, I was like, wow, and here he is. He's like, and Pantera would tour through, and then we got connected with Concrete Management, and Concrete Management, they managed Pantera, and got them on these tours. So we ended up playing shows with them, and but Pantera, they did not get signed to Geffen. But it just reminded me of that time when we got, shit started happening fast.
Yeah, would have.
Yeah.
Man, those early shows with Pantera would have been nuts, man.
Oh,
absolutely.
It was epic for me because I was a big fan of Pantera before all this stuff even happened.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Slayer back in those days.
Yeah. Well, Volga and La Sexo are like the two diamonds in my necklace.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Vulgar Display of Power. I had that going all the time on my.
Man.
Yeah.
Good.
And Sepultura.
When it comes to heavy groove, those two albums, yours and theirs, two of the best ever in the 90s. Yeah, man. Because the groove doesn't let up. The whole album is full of groove.
Yeah.
It's not like give you a taste and never see it again. Both of those are just
right
all the way through.
Yeah. And I love Vinnie Paul. He was a
rest awesome. In peace. He's an awesome guy.
Great.
Both him and Don.
Yeah, and I can't believe how much he could drink and play. Man, he had he would have a freaking full bottle, just drink that whole thing by the end of the show. I'm like, how? I'm not a super lightweight, so but for me, I have to be completely sober. If I have a few drinks, it's like things can start. You're not 100% because you're compromised. That's why they say you can't operate machinery, or and playing drums is so many different limbs going on, and but I guess if you build up that tolerance, then you build up the tolerance. But for me, I don't want to poison myself. I prefer to be 100%, all my fibers of my being to be there. Otherwise, I feel like I'm cheating the listener, or or the band. Like I want to be. I love the music. If this is what I'm choosing for my whole life, like this is my thing, then anything that gets in the way is just going to slow me down.
Oh, most definitely. Hey, man, when you guys went into the studio after you got signed to do the album, did collaborating with Andy Wallace, did that change the vibe much in terms of strong song structure, or how you want to?
Yeah. And Andy Wallace, I was surprised because when I knew producers. We got produced before with different things, but the way Andy Wallace works is he takes pre-production seriously. It becomes its own thing, and the pre-production was like a 5-day or a week in the studio.
Yeah.
Not the recording studio, but another studio, pre-production type studio, where he set it up like a classroom. He's got a podium, and I think he had a blackboard or something behind, we were there in front of him with our whole setup.
Yep.
And he had us going through the songs, and we just did one song at a time, and we went through it from beginning to end, and the flow of everything. He analyzed it, and he was like, this has got. I think right here in this part of the song, we'll be able to go into this section much cooler if I does this, or if you drop this out, or how about staying on this melody and keep it going, rather than change it so much for the transition. Like, he would just make these suggestions that would make the song flow better, and that's the deal. Like, you have to have a producer, or if you want to release your record in a big way, and getting that extra outside person in to analyze everything really helps a band, because when you're drilling the songs with your band over and over again, you become numb to it. You become numb to it. You become, everything's autopilot, and by the time the end of the set comes around, you're like, well, I think I played everything right, but then it's like, what about the audience? Like, what do they hear? And so
that's great. That's
for me, producing. Awesome. And since I've been producing bands a lot, since I really appreciate that whole thing, I, as a drummer now, I always remind myself to, like, am I playing this beat just for me to show off, or am I playing this beat for the song? And I'm always like all about, I always want the best, coolest beat for the song, and
live in the song.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, some of the beats you got on that album are like so much air in them, which is what I love. Especially some of your kick patterns. Like, you do a lot of 8s and then follow it up with a couple of 16ths, but there's a lot of air in between, which gives it that bounce, gives it that really cool groove.
Oh yeah, like spacing it out, like boom, boom,
yeah,
boom. Yeah. And that for me came from hip hop. That came from like Planet Rock, like just beats that have, these beats that I always just grab me from my core of my being, and watching people break dancing in front of me in Brooklyn, the dancing, and there was always dancing in the streets, and guys that would make the beats their culture. You know what I mean? Like that's what I miss about Brooklyn. I miss about when you go out there and you see people. They had boom boxes. Now everyone's got the AirPods in. But before, you go down the street with a freaking massive boom box on their shoulder and just walking down, and everybody starts moving to the music, and you gather, and when you see that, it makes you think the beat differently. Like you remember the beat because the beat reminds you of that. So you play feeling. When you play the beat with that feeling of the culture connection, it gives it a different life or something. I don't know. And then I put the aggression from Slayer shows, and then you put all of the stuff that is you. We don't want to hold anything back about who we are in our music. And that's another critical thing for me. If I'm going to play music with some other musicians, I want to feel that we're all open and not just doing it to just get through the set, or just to show you that I can play everything perfectly. I want our lives to be in it, and because music to me is life. I sometimes I might get a little carried away. But it to me that makes sense.
No, it makes sense to me, man. Because if you associate an experience with the music or the beat or element of the music, then it's gonna transfer into your playing. So
I mean, look at Latino culture. Go to when you the only way for me to understand music from Puerto Rico is to watch them dance. Like I was when I went to Percussion Institute of Technology, I didn't really know how to play some of those other cultural beats like samba or like jazz, like these other styles, to me as a heavy metal drummer was so complicated, it was so tricky. But
Yeah.
I learned by watching them dance and watching.
Yeah.
It's all on the up, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
That's
know,
it.
reggae, like, so when you're pounding years of down drumming, it's all down, and that's up. We're on different worlds. So
Yeah.
I had to flip myself upside down. I guess play upside down. What you just, you know what I mean? That's like, you know, that's a literal like, but it's just really getting into the world of the upbeats. And you have like these different patterns, you know, bam, 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 bam. You know, and so everything's based on that.
The clave,
The
you know, the
clave,
clave.
yeah, and the samba, and you know, but you're riding on the ups.
Yeah.
To do it, you have to really be in the culture. It's that like, live it. You have to live it. Go to those clubs and dance, and join a band and play it for a while and play some shows for a while. Then I'll be way more into that. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to act. You can't just jump in. Is what I'm saying. You have to go through that.
You got to experience the whole
Yeah,
lifestyle.
yeah. And I love that. I love it. You know, also music from Russia.
Yeah.
Or you know, like some of those old classical stuff. There's whole other worlds that we and Irish music. I love Irish music, and so when I left White Zombie and I went to Musicians Institute, I started just exploring music from around the world and
That's
really
great.
getting into. One of the biggest things I got into when I formed the band Healer, that you actually listening, was Middle Eastern.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
And watching those belly dancers, the Middle Eastern stuff opened me up. And at that time, I was already collecting African drums and Middle Eastern drums, the doumbek, and having drum jams and with people and go out to the beach and play with gatherings. So I kind of incorporated that with Healer.
Yeah, man, there's some really cool vibes on that album. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, I love the. I'm in love with like djembe and darbuka as well. Like some of those cats online. See those darbuka players? They're crazy, man. Like how fast their hands and fingers move. You can't even see them. You know.
It's insane. It's insane, and that's a technique. That's a lifetime of. You can't just jump in as a heavy metal drummer and play all those. And I've got my fingers going a little bit, but you know, but for me, it's you know, I could never get as good as them because, and they can't. I don't think they can get on the drum kit and play what I can play, but. You know, it's because you're down here. It's all here on the fingers, and whereas on the on the drum kit, it's a whole body.
Yeah, man.
So yeah.
I play tabla as well. Like the Indian drums, the tablas. So because that's my background as well, and so I learned that for a few years and incorporated into bits and pieces. But yeah, that's a whole new ball game there. Tabla.
Can you voice all the rhythms? You know yeah, I love that.
Yeah. That's the thing when you learn, your teacher's always like, okay, say this first before you play it. You got to say it.
Yeah. I've taken lessons. I've gotten okay on. You know, it's oh my god, the tablas are insane. But I got the sounds and I could play a few of the rhythms. I was taking lessons for a while, but then something got in the way. I think Healer had a bunch of shows or something, so I had to stop those and get on tour. And I never got back into it like I did. But I was starting to really get it, and it was cool. I love the boom. And you got the bounce your finger, and then the ding, ding, ding. the nod, I
Yeah.
forget all them words. But
The na
but
and the God. Yeah.
yeah, and but I
Awesome, Sam.
incorporate. Yeah, and I was taking lessons from a guy named Aaron Plunkett around that time. I'm not sure if he's the one who showed me tabla, but he was showing me the bones. You get these two rib bones, and you hold them like this, kind of like spoons, and you go. Brrrr,
Yeah,
that
right.
it's kind of cool. You can do both hands, playing bones, rib bones.
Nice.
And he showed me some of the Doomback technique stuff, and through him I learned the counting of taka, takita, takademi.
Okay.
So like every grouping, like all rhythms are based on twos and threes. So like
Uh-huh.
you can get any, if you're doing a 9, it could be 3 3 3 or 5
Yeah.
and what but learning the counts would put things in groups. So like a
Yeah.
3 is takita and taka, takita taka, takita taka, takita taka is 3 2
Mm.
3 2 3 2. But 5 could be reached with 2 and a 3. Taka takita taka takita taka takita taka. And
That's,
then the same thing
and
with
if you
7.
switch up the accent, then it's completely different feel, completely different,
Exactly. That's what
sound
I'm
as well.
saying. Yeah. So I would approach my students with playing everything like that. Like so if you have taka taka taki the taka taka taki the bass snare, the bass snare, the bass snare,
Yeah.
or around the kid, toms and then crashes. So you basically every rhythm could be played as a groove or as a drum fill or with if you know how to voice it and you
Yeah.
have all the talent, you can voice it. If you voice it now, say okay, now with voicing it, let me hear a drum beat on the kit, or do a drum fill that has that same voice,
Yeah.
and that opens you up to rather than giving the student specific instructions on like you're going to do 3 here, 3 here. Just there's the it's like here's the bass line, come up with the beat from
Yeah.
scratch. And so giving your student where they have to write their beat is I think an important thing for teachers to remember. Like a lot of teachers I notice leave out that creative element where they just you
Yeah.
play this, you play that, you play this. Sometimes you got to get out of that, get them ready, get the student ready. Sometimes a lot of students they're just beginners, right? But when you're
Yeah.
ready to get on jump in with a band in a room, they have to know how to write their own beats,
Yeah.
based on any melody,
That's it. It's not all about technicality. It's you got to have the creativity in there as well. So
That's the ticket. That's the ticket. Yeah. I mean, to be a musician, there's a lot of like hired guns. Like okay, what do you want me to play? But you gotta be able to be a composer. And that can be hard for
yeah.
some musicians. They don't know what to play.
Not everyone's. You'd be surprised, eh? Not everyone's a jammer. There's some killer players,
Right.
but they're not jammers. They're not
Amazing
jammers.
hired. Yeah. It's a different breed, I think, of musicians. You got the hired guns, and you got the real band dudes.
Yeah.
I never wanted to just be a hired gun. Like sometimes I get hired to do stuff, but ultimately I want to make it mine. I want to make it because I want to be able to paint my own picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your just going back to the studio, man? What was your setup on your kit for the Sexorcisto? What were you actually playing?
I was playing for the album. I was playing
Yeah.
on a Pearl all maple shell custom drum kit, and it was two 22-inch bass drums, and then the toms I think was a 10, 12, 14, 16.
Uh-huh.
And 2 Chinas, 2 crashes, 4 crashes I think I actually had. I don't play with 2 Chinas anymore. I don't really use the one on the left as much.
Yeah.
Just looks cool. But, since the economy, I had to size down a little bit. No, I sized down. I got rid of one of the bass drums. I got rid of the whole left side is kind of got rid of. It got a double pedal. It doesn't
Yeah.
look nearly as cool though.
Okay. Okay. And miking it up, like how many mics and room mics did you use on
I
the album?
mic the drum. I mic every drum from the
Yeah.
top, as close to the head as I can.
Mhm.
Snare drum, I do a bottom mic as well.
Yeah.
Um, I notice a lot of people put mics on the back of each drum, every single drum. I don't think that's necessary.
Mhm.
Sometimes minimal works better. Um, uh, I uh, I got a room mics, overheads. I mic one mic on the cymbal, one mic on the hi hat.
Yeah.
Just two overheads, two overheads. I spread them out. I don't do the X Y like that. I've spread them
Mhm.
out and I point them directly at the crashes.
Okay.
Overhead, pointing at these crashes, and I point them at the other one on these crashes. Right there, use my
Yeah.
ears. Listen where the mic is picking up the vibrations the best, because
Mhm.
every room is different. The size of the room, the shape of things in the room, the density
Yeah.
of objects in the room changes the texture of the vibrations. The vibrations are going to have a more hollow sound or warm sound, dead sound, with kids are bouncing off the walls. Sometimes then
Yeah.
you're going
Yeah.
to have noise cancellation and phasing problems, and so that's why you just got to make sure you're moving the mic around, and you're listening carefully where it really picks up the sound of the instrument the best. Uh,
Yeah.
Sometimes not so close is good. Sometimes really close is good. I love close miking everything,
Uh-huh.
except for the overheads, of course. But every drum, I go right up on the head, not touching the head, of course. uh,
Yeah.
Guitar amps, I get right up on the head of the speaker as close to as I
Yeah.
can. You get more direct sound. Then it's in your
Mhm.
face. It's right there. The speaker's in your face. I like that sound for punchiness.
Yeah. Most definitely.
Fast
Yeah.
sound. Yeah.
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 And
The
with
bass drum
with the
actually. I'm sorry.
what's that? Sorry?
I
No,
was
no, no.
saying
Sorry.
the
You.
bass drum. The bass drum actually you get a nice bigger lower tone when you bring it away from the head.
Yeah.
About 18 inches or 14 inches away from the head. You bring it back. It's gonna pick up the whole body rather than attack. So it all depends on what you want with that. But I started miking it from the near the outside cone. I bring the mic
Okay.
about there.
Nice. Is that how you mic'd up your kick drums for the Sexorcisto? Because that's
No,
got a real unique sound on there.
you'll have to ask Andy Wallace. Back then, I was just focused on playing the album.
Yeah.
I was not a studio guy yet. I
Yeah.
picked up studio the recording bands and all that. It was when it was reachable to the
Yeah.
regular musician. Back then, it was impossible for a regular musician to open up their own recording studio unless you had hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Man. Yeah.
When the ADAT machines came out, that
Mhm.
allowed us to record on VHS cassette tapes, Super VHS, and those
Mhm.
cassette tapes, I think it's half-inch magnetic tape, and they
Yeah.
recorded digitally, and it was great sound. We ended up, I ended up doing three of them together. They're 8 channels each, so I had 32 channels. Oh wait, that would be 24. 8, 16, 24. So I had 24 channels set up. Plus, they would get time coded together into my computer. And at the time, I had a Macintosh 1994. So I think it was Mac Pro. I had a 4 GB hard drive. I was like, oh my God, we're going to be able to put the whole world on that drive. Yeah, my friends were blown away. Like, how'd you get a 4 gig? You
Four
know,
gig back then. Yeah, that was unheard of.
yeah. But I think we only had like 500 megabytes or something. Um,
Yeah.
but that was used not to record audio. That was just from a MIDI, and I had Cubase on there, and Cubase was locked time code. to the ADATs. So the ADATs synchronized with everything in the computer. So in the computer, I was able to edit. What was it? Everything was on tape. Yeah, it was just computer stuff. It was just the triggering on there. But I still was able to not only have the MIDI information, but but you could see the whole song on the computer still because it was all MIDI. It allowed us to create markers and be able to fly to certain parts of the song quickly. Because as soon as I point to it, all the machines roll to that point of the song.
Yeah.
Where today you just point to it, you play it right away. But back then you point to it and it's got which and then it plays. And so in order to copy and paste audio, I actually had to digitally. You can go to one bar on one machine, and then the other machine would back up 8 bars. I could copy it from there to there, and it will actually digitally transfer it from one tape to the other tape because I have 3 separate decks. So the decks roll in time exactly. If I want to move that, let's say 16 bars ahead, that bar is now going to be here. The machine would roll to that part, so it would be off time, and then it would play and record to the other one digitally, so it would be an identical copy. And then it would be on the other, so I would have it on the other track, and then I had to bring it back over later. But there's a lot of bouncing stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
So then back then we'd have to, force us to play the whole song correctly, be better. And punching in works, like the old days. Basically you just jump in and play. If you want to punch in and change a section. But if you have it right in a different part of the song, you can copy and paste it. So
it's a process, man. It's a process, that's for sure. So one thing that I'm real grateful about though with like for you, like with Zombie, like before you left, you got your people knew of you because I think those 2 film clips, Black Sunshine and Thunder Kiss.
Yep.
I'm really glad that you were in them and not the hired help dude, because that would have sucked.
Yeah.
You left pretty shortly after those 2 clips, right?
I did. I left pretty much right after Black Sunshine, within a couple of months. It was that was a real tough time for me and Rob Zombie. We were at each other's throat on tour, and our communication was deteriorated. Just didn't know how to resolve our issues and differences, and so we just ended up growing apart, and we wouldn't even talk anymore for like 4 months on tour. And and it was really tough. And I and that was something that I kind of wish I would have taken it more seriously, as a problem, as an issue. Instead I just tried to pretend it didn't exist and just ignored him. But that's not the way you resolve problems. Now, the way to resolve an issue with another human being is communication and resolve it. We have a meeting and we work together. And I kind of, but Rob Zombie made himself. He wouldn't make himself available. He would always ignore me and run away. So it was.
That's what I was going to say, man. Was like maybe he didn't really want to resolve it either, sort of.
Oh hell no, and that was the big issue, is communicating with him. I mean, as much as I loved the band and loved the music, the big thing that hit me was I didn't really like that Rob wanted to go in the direction he was talking about, like going
I mentioned that,
industrial, and I didn't really like that. He was way too, like, he was so into ministry, and I was like oh my God, Sepultura, at the time it was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Roots Blood, it was tribal. I love the
Mm.
organic element of that kind of drumming, not the
Yeah,
ministry. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
there's nothing organic about that. It's just, and that's cool in itself. It's like a freaking machine. But it's not like Rob and I were fighting over that. I just noticed that that's the direction he was going into, and that was not something that made me like want to stay in the band. The big issue was when um, uh, he's turned around, and spit on me on stage. So that was like assault. Like he was getting violent, and with that disrespect, where he did not like, I finally called him to talk about it. I finally picked up the phone and I said, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
He told me to quit the band. He said, if you don't like it, quit the band. And I'm like, is that what you want? And he said, fuck you, quit. And he hung up.
And
And
that was it.
that's it. That was how I quit.
Well,
so
yeah.
I was like, this is unacceptable. So I went down to look for him in the hotel. He was gone.
Right.
I couldn't find him. So I just made up my mind. It's like, there's nothing in this for me. So I just ended up getting a bus ticket and went home.
Yeah, right.
And they continued on the tour.
Sean and Jay didn't really have much to say about it. It was just between you and Rob. So.
Yeah, just between me and Rob. Jay was always kind of wanted. He like I said before, every guitar player, they're always difficult for them to find where they fit in, because it's always been Sean and Rob and me as a drummer, who's 4 years younger. So I was always talked down to because when you're like 16 and they're 20, think about it.
I get you.
The
dynamic started that way, and the dynamic started that way, and it just kept going that way.
And it stayed that way. So I was just a kid, disrespected, put him in the background. But the one cool thing about the band is everybody honored the agreement where we split the publishing equally.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Until I left the band, then I heard problems, because then they started grabbing, because money started rolling in. So now they're like, oh shit, well, I wrote all of this shit, you weren't even there. So Shauna got out of a lot of stuff. She's like, I wrote that shit. And so she told me a lot of horror stories, and what's fucked up is even after I left the band, and like they honored it, but the lawyer worded it where he spelled it out to where I only got the publishing for Sexorcisto, but all the albums before Sexorcisto wasn't spelled out specifically, so they kept it all.
Really? So you're getting nothing from the early stuff?
I'm not getting any. I'm getting just record sales, not the publishing.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I tried to resolve it, tried to say, hey, look, I know you guys meant to include that. And then Shauna said, oh, it's too late, man. And they're not making any money publishing for that much anyway. But I'm like, it's still, I want to see it on my ASCAP, because we did agree, and that.
Yeah.
So I did what I could. I even got lawyers involved, but they're like, well, you signed that separation agreement. And I wasn't looking to get greedy or anything. I just wanted to secure what we agreed on.
Yeah.
And not take a big settlement.
Yeah.
So they offered me $7,000. And I think it was like 7,000. Anyway, I just got pennies. But that $7,000 was to give them the name. They wanted the name White Zombie, where I owned. Because I was started the band with them, and they wanted to keep the name, which I'm like, I don't want to have anything to do with the band anymore anyway. And later I learned, well, the name has power to it because merchandise. So I was foolish. I wasn't thinking the big bucks. At the time, I was thinking just, part ways, let them have it. It's cool.
Yeah.
You know, they want to continue. I don't. So I just want what I did in the past, and that's it. So I thought I secured everything. And then later I'm like, wait a minute, where are those other records on my ass cap? And it's a tough thing, man. All of the different things you got to protect in the music business.
Yeah.
It's like
it's a tricky business, man.
Yeah, I can see why the hired guns want to just stick with their check, but when you're the writer, you gotta look out for so many different variables.
Most definitely. I mean, well, it didn't last long after you, man. So, a couple of years.
Yeah,
that was it. I mean, I heard Shauna say once, I don't know whether it's true, that when Rob broke up the band and her and Jay kind of just found out about it pretty matter-of-factly, that
they were really pissed. Yeah.
And then he almost released his solo stuff almost immediately. He was already working on it or something.
Yep.
But basically, I think, I don't know correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard her say that the label even said to them, "Well, do you want to continue on with somebody else," sort of thing? Or was that, do you know whether that was actually put by them, or?
I haven't heard that.
Different vocalist, or?
I thought that would be a great idea, and I found the perfect replacement for Rob. He was actually the singer of the House of Zombie, Greg. House of Zombie White Zombie tribute band.
Right.
He does not get out of breath when he sings Rob's lyrics. he can go through the whole song, okay? And he's super tight. Like and his energy is fantastic. So, but who can replace Rob? Rob Zombie's he's an incredible artist. That's one of the things.
Not flagging him off whatsoever. Like he's awesome in his own right, but just the way everything went down just seems really unfortunate.
I know, and I keep trying to, every now and then I try to just pick up the broken pieces with everybody, and I would just find that no one wants to ever have to do with Rob again. Yeah. Nobody wants to deal with it.
I would have so loved to have seen you come back with Sean and Jay and then kept going, man. It would have kicked ass.
I try to do that too.
Absolutely would have kicked ass, man.
There's too much damage from the band that they don't even want to play the songs.
Yeah.
And that's fucked up. Because I could play the songs. I think I got the shortest end of the stick with after the band broke up. But Shauna, she had to suffer a lot of abuse. There was so much abuse going on that I heard because Shauna, when Rob started dating Sherry, they were harassing Shauna on stage. Like they would Sherry and her gang of friends would throw things at her and just do stupid stuff. This is what I was told, okay? And I believe it because it's a continuation of what I had to put up with Rob. I don't doubt that the shit people do on tour, forget it. That's nothing. It's just crazy, man. But
I still see that you guys have I follow Sean online. She's always posting stuff from back in the day, and because she was the keepsake person. She kept everything.
She's great at that.
Was always posting old photos, old this, old that. Back in the day. So you can see she still has a place in her heart with all that stuff.
Obviously
you do.
That's true.
Obviously you do. But Jay has gone incognito in Spain. I don't know what he's.
I don't know what he's doing out there, but yeah, I think about him every now and then and wonder why he's in Spain. Like what?
You guys never shoot the shit over email or anything like that?
I shot him an email. He never responded. Do you know what brought him out there?
Spain. I have no idea. Obviously, he just wanted to change the scenery. So
before he stayed in Spain, he was traveling continuously every year, on the road, just on a journey, just traveling around the world, different places, and
Obviously found something he loves in Spain. So
Yeah.
Happy.
Usually it's a girl, but who knows? I mean, for all of us, we find love, and it's like people give up everything sometimes for love. I don't know.
Yeah. You still see Sean sometimes down in New Orleans? I heard you say you've gone there a couple of times or once. Or
I actually saw her in New York, where we got together with Michael Alago. And,
cool.
And we just went out. Got coffee, hung out, and it was a little reunion hang, and that was it. We get together, every now and then when we can, like that.
She's doing super cool stuff with her photography and some of her like wallpaper designs and all that. I can sort of keep in touch doing on her website and stuff.
That's awesome. And she was doing scarves.
Yeah. It's cool.
Pretty cool.
Going back to her roots, like all the art college stuff.
And she had bands. She had a few different projects going. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I've got to say, your grooves, I think, are responsible for getting a whole generation of women into metal. You know why?
Oh yeah.
Because before I've been to like a whole bunch of shows, Sepultura, Pantera, Slayer, blah.
Yeah.
But when I turned around to the end, obviously you'd left. By the time White Zombie toured Australia, it was with John, and there was the Astro Creep tour, right?
Right.
But regardless of all that, when I turned around at the end of that gig in my hometown in Brisbane, I couldn't believe what I saw. I turned around and there was probably more women in the audience than and just loving it, So, and that your grooves are responsible for that, because La Sexorcisto is what got Zombie famous, and Astro Creep is it's a cool album, man. Like, don't get me wrong, I love John as a drummer too. He's completely different style than you. But La Sexorcisto is the platform that got all the women into it, man.
Wow. Yeah. A lot of girls like to strip to Thunder Kiss. I know it was always played out there, and I noticed when we were touring, we had there were more girls coming to the shows for that record, and because when it's danceable, girls love to dance, and when you got something that's going to make your booty shake, and I remember, and then more girls started playing in metal bands, I know, with like Cold Chamber, and
that's right. Sean really did open the door for a lot of that for a lot of women.
Yeah. It wasn't really common to have a girl in the band.
And she says that for so long, people still thought she was a guy.
It's true. Yeah. Then she started dressing more girly. But in the early days, she was always just, very masculine, like just no makeup and, just long curly hair. And so you couldn't tell,
Yeah.
She dressed with the ripped jeans and the same as everyone else was dressing. So
your look was super cool, man, with the trucker's cap and the mirrored sunnies and the big mutton chops and man. And your tattoos, are they some of them Rob's designs or
well, actually, he did draw her, but when he had like a sketch, he helped me out of some of these, just draw like a quick sketch. But Guy Atchison and Philip Liu, this is really their art. But I asked Rob to help me with an idea for this one. I got this one right before the Sexorcisto was released.
Okay.
So it's this girl riding on a rocket, but Kevin Quinn did this piece, and I don't like how it turned out down here, so I want to cover that up. But at least it's underneath. It's supposed to be like a flying shark.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, it wasn't even supposed to be a shark, but I call him a shark because he put a face on him and looked like a shark. So.
Yeah, man. The last thing I'll say about the Sexorcisto, because I don't want to keep harping on about it, but it was the visuals, man. Like, not just the music, But when you opened up that CD sleeve,
Mm-hmm.
and you've just got like a freaking, encyclopedia worth of lyrics to get through,
Right.
and then all the imagery, and then all the tattoos, because you guys,
yeah.
the artwork, the tattoos kind of matched, and it was just super cool back in the day,
Yeah, and that's where Rob and Shauna really helped with that, gathering all the ideas. Like, I had my look. I came from the metalhead background, and but they would always encourage me to pick out new stuff at thrift stores. So we would go thrift store shopping and stuff. We'd pull over on tour and we'll just pull all these cool belt buckles or stuff, and we would stitch it together and build our own outfits, and that was the way we landed on our look for the image wise. But we all had our own direction, but it all seemed to always work well together. And for the album cover and all that stuff, Rob and Shauna, that's where they were always doing the covers, with
it's a damn memorable cover though, all those psychedelic colors and stuff.
Yeah. And you put that together with the photographers we got, to help with the images and I think Mike Levine. I want to say Mike Levine. Is that name sounds?
Rings a bell, that name.
I think the photographer that did the record cover for Make Them Die Slowly, I believe it was Mike Levine, and he did Nirvana's Nevermind record cover.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope that's the right name. But I'm sure someone who's watching this will be able to Google it. Tell us later.
Hey, dude, would you mind just for 1 sec? I just got to take a leak.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
1 sec, and I'll be back, man.
Well, I'll do a bathroom leak too, real quick.
Okay, no worries, man.
Okay.
Yeah.